The Dressage Today podcast is back for season 2. And hey, you're listening to the first episode. Whether you've come back after spending all of season 1 with us, or you're a first-time listener, we are glad you're here. In more typical episodes of the Dressage Today podcast, we sit down with some cool people we've met in the dressage community. Sometimes they're top riders, other times they're inspiring people, or they're equine industry leaders who have some helpful tips to share that can make you a more informed rider and horse owner. In today's episode, however, I'm joined by my co-host, Jennifer Mellace, Dressage Today's content director, as we discuss the latest news in the world of Dressage Today. Thanks for listening. We can't wait to bring you more this season.
Hey there, I'm Jennifer Mellace.
And I'm Lindsay Paulsen.
We're the hosts of the Dressage Today Podcast, where you can find us talking about anything and everything dressage related.
Our conversations span the world of dressage, from leading riders to local level dressage heroes.
We're talking training advice, horse care tips, and stories to inspire your own dressage journey.
Tune in, then tack up. Hey Jen, thanks for joining me today.
Hello, Lindsay. It's good to be with you, even though it's virtually.
It's so different being in two different places. To everybody that's listening, thank you so much for joining us for a new season of the Dressage Today podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Lindsay Paulsen. Since we're kind of working during the times of coronavirus, I'm calling in from Saratoga Springs, New York, and we have Jennifer Mellace here, Dressage Today's content director, on the other end of the phone, and you are in Frederick, Maryland.
Yep.
So I thought maybe just a way that we could sort of introduce our new season here is that we could touch on a few highlights from last season that stood out to us from our episodes and podcast recordings. So Jen, was there anything that really stands out in your memory that was special to you from season 1 of the Dressage Today podcast?
Yeah, it was interesting having never, obviously I've listened to podcasts before, but having never done them personally, it was a little, I'll be honest, nerve-wracking at first when we had to get started down that road. But I really enjoyed talking with the people that I spoke with and listening to the people you spoke with. One of the podcasts that I did was with George and Roberta Williams. And everything about that podcast I really enjoyed. We were tucked away in a corner of a barn aisle at Dressage at Devon, and it was just like kind of surreal that I'm sitting, we're sitting there with George and Roberta in this iconic, on these iconic showgrounds in a barn that I remember being in when I was, in probably high school, when I used to go and to the shows and help the barn where I grew up riding. We would go there for the breed show, and that was one of the barns that we would be in with the babies. And it was just everything about it kind of brought back so many memories. But that particular podcast was really, it was just really nice getting to talk with George and Roberta and listening to their history and all that they have done for the sport, and hearing more about Rocher, George's horse that he rode. And it just, everything about that podcast was really quite special, just from the location of it and hearing everything that they've done in the sport and for the sport. So that was one that really kind of was special for me.
Yeah, and they're like the nicest, most incredibly down to earth, like grounded people. That's one of the things that I love the most about the job that we have, is that like I feel like we get to talk to so many interesting people who have been leaders in the sport, and I'm always so pleasantly surprised with how the superstars tend to be so like generally generous with their knowledge and like happy to share share what they've learned with you and stuff. And that's I don't know, that gives me like a warm, happy feeling just to know that exists in our world. Cause I know that's not always the case, that when you like meet your hero, sometimes it can be terribly disappointing, but.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think, and we keep saying this, I feel like I'm a broken record, but it all comes back to, the horse, right? And we all got started in horses because we love the horse. And so at the beginning of it all and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And we all, even the top stars in our sport, have, it's like this giddy little feeling of when we were kids again, and we all kind of connect on that basic premise that it's, the horse is just such an incredible animal and at the heart of everything we do. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is pretty cool. We have a very cool job that we get to meet the people who are so important in our sport and really, really good, cool people.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's funny too how like okay, for those of you listening, like this podcast endeavor has been, really pretty new for both Jen and myself. And we, it's stressful dealing with the technology end of things and stuff. And so as we're recording these, we don't want to have a tech glitch or have something embarrassing happen in the middle of this. So we've kind of stressed out about like, oh, we have to be somewhere that's completely silent and there's no noise and blah, 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 blah. But most of the time we're recording this at horse shows or in a barn or something. And I think I had this like moment of freedom where I was like, wait a second, if we're recording this in a barn and a horse walks by and you hear its, like hoof beats in the barn aisle, like our listeners aren't going to care because this is real life. We are dealing with horses. So this is what happens. A horse walks through the middle of your podcast.
Exactly. So true.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's see. I'm thinking back on like season 1 of our podcast and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I could really pick a favorite because I just think, every person that we talk to is so interesting in their own way and everybody has such a unique story and a unique perspective. But, like one of the most memorable ones for me was either sitting down with Dorothy Schneider at the NITA symposium and just, hearing some background. Just, I don't know, like spending time with her. And even though it was very, very brief during the lunch break, but just kind of hearing about her, like, just her day-to-day order of operations and the things that she prioritizes. And she's very much about the horse having a balanced lifestyle where, it gets to go outside and enjoy the sunshine and it's happy in its work. And, she seems to be really focused on the partnership aspect, as she should be, of dressage. And she, talk about like meeting other heroes and stuff. Like I thought she was incredibly humble and like almost, well, she was very soft spoken. And I just think it's interesting because I'm like, oh my God, you've like taken over the dressage world. Like you are the queen of the dressage world. And she still is very humble. So I love talking to her. And then the one other podcast recording that I really super enjoyed was when I was in Bermuda. I was talking to their national dressage coach, Angela Halloran Smith, who's originally a North Carolina native and now lives in Bermuda. But this is like the blessing and the curse of podcasts, is that we had this, lovely conversation where I was learning about all of these, like, I don't know, unexpected things that you have to deal with when you're doing dressage on this remote island. And it was just fascinating to hear about that. But we had the most spectacular view when we were looking out on this little sound when like the sky is bright blue, there's glistening blue water underneath, and there were little sailboats bobbing along while we chatted. And I was like, oh man, that's the downside of the podcast, is that our readers can't actually enjoy this beautiful scene, or our listeners, I'm sorry, can't enjoy this beautiful scene with us.
Talk about loving your job. That had to be one of the coolest experiences for you, to be in Bermuda, not only doing the podcast, but just from start to finish. That whole thing was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it was super cool. And like, just a like really nice, welcoming group of people out there. And I mean, they're proof that even though it certainly has its challenges to pursue dressage out there in a way that, like things like saddle fitting or health specialists aren't really easily accessible. I mean, they do it and they make it work. And Annabelle Collins, who's a Bermuda native, I mean, she was slated to go to Tokyo at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Spoken and stuff, and at the time that I was there was also a rider who was aiming for the North American Youth Championships. So it was amazing to see, you know, everything that they were doing, and like a really cool, I'm kind of sidetracking from the whole like podcast memory thing, but another part about that
Mm-hmm.
was just so cool was that like we had been invited over for like a judges dinner after an FEI show that they had while I was there. And we were sitting in this like just beautiful, like old Bermuda estate. And we were in this home that just like, I don't know if you think of like classic Bermuda fancy house. That's what this was. And it was just, we were sitting there talking to judges Jeannie McDonald and Lois Eukins. And it was just kind of like we were having this little fireside chat, you know, and I was like, in any other situation, I think I would have been very intimidated to speak to dressage judges, but they just made it feel like home, you know? So anyway, so.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that and how, you know, what a cool experience that was. And yeah, I mean, just kind of going back a little bit to your podcast with Dorothy Schneider. Yeah, I remember because I was with you when you were doing that one. And you know, you talk about being intimidated, and I kind of felt that way going into that. And I wasn't even the one asking her the questions, but I was like, oh my God, it's Dorothy Schneider. Like, oh, and she was so wonderful. You know, she was so approachable, and you did a phenomenal job with the questions. And she was just so gracious with her time. And that's, you know, I feel like I'm repeating what we talked about with George and Roberta, but it just goes back to the fact that, you know, there's so many people in this sport that are willing to give us their time and give riders their time, no matter, you know, whether you're from Dressage Today or you're not. You know, there's just so many people that are looking to share what they know and help people. And that's the coolest thing about all of this. And I think the fun part about doing these podcasts, you know, is that we're getting to, you know, not only put it, you know, into print on the website in articles and into videos on Dressage Today on demand, but also now, you know, somebody can, you know, be driving along or, you know, doing something and be listening to these wonderful people share their stories and their advice and their tips. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. It's, you know, I know Dressage Today has gone through quite a bit of evolution just within the past few years and moving away from our print product and moving more into the digital realm. And of course, like for those of you who are listening to this, like Jen and I were, you know, we're really attached to the print product. And we know that some people have, you know, mixed feelings about moving away from magazines and more towards the digital end. But as much as it was difficult in a way to shift the focus from that, like it really is cool having like a more multi-dimensional approach to like everything about dressage that we share with our audience. So yeah
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
marching forward, right? Always moving forward.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, in dressage riding and in life, right? Always.
Exactly.
So okay, let's see. Let's catch everybody up on well, what's been going on in your personal life since things kind of ended with the podcast or not your personal life, but your riding.
Well, yeah.
Life, I mean.
Riding and yeah. Well, and COVID. Thank you, COVID, for not giving me much of a life. No, I've been hunkered down like everybody else, you know. I've spent a lot of time at home like everyone else, and it's been doing a lot of things around the house, and I've gotten much more into gardening this year, and we have a koi pond that it's been interesting because I've had the chance to really see everything through the seasons, and I normally don't get that opportunity because I'm either traveling for work or traveling for vacation, and none of that has happened this year. So it's been totally unrelated to, Dressage Today, but that's been kind of fun being able to, kind of see everything around the yard, the property kind of change with the season. So I've kind of enjoyed that. But riding wise, I have not been doing much myself, but once everything was lifted so that we could at least get back out to the barn, my daughter, Sophia, has been riding. And she has actually been taking dressage lessons over the last month and a half, I guess, going on 2 months, on the pony that I was taking lessons on, Bubba, which some of you, if you have followed our, the website and some of the blog posts that I've done in the past, there's this great little fell pony that Allie Calkins, a trainer in Maryland, owns, who is just this perfect little schoolmaster and adorable to boot. And I was taking lessons on him, and just with things getting busy in my life, I had stopped, but now Sophia is taking lessons on him, and watching her progress and seeing her enjoy the dressage lessons has been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed watching her. So we've been doing that, and I've been continuing to run, and I'm going to be doing a half marathon, my own little personal, socially distant half marathon next weekend. So that's kind of, where things stand for me. So yeah. How about you?
Oh, well, let's see. So yeah, in New York State, it was kind of weird. Well, it's weird. It's been weird for everybody. Isn't that like the understatement of like the year?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I want to say it was like from March through May. It was basically 2 months. We weren't allowed to go to the barn here, just because technically it was like it's not self-care. It's like a full service boarding operations. And obviously, we weren't the ones like feeding our horses. So those of us who boarded there weren't allowed to even like set foot in the barn for 2 months, which was, pretty weird, because that's probably been the longest time I've gone in 20 years without riding. So that was kind of weird. And the first couple weeks, I was like, okay, I can do this. It's fine. Everything's good. It's sort of nice to not have that obligation and to just know that the horses are being taken care of, and it's fine. I can, go on a walk after work, or like I have all this free time. And then like by like week 3, I was like, I need to see my horse. I just need to be smell some shavings or something. But in the time that I wasn't riding, I picked up doing like vinyasa yoga, like just through, a little TV, what do you call it? Like video subscription service, which has actually been super helpful. And it's been interesting now that I've gone back to riding. Obviously it's been interesting seeing how yoga has probably, I can't say whether it's necessarily improved my riding, but I think going back to riding was probably easier than it would have been if I had not opted to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I have my mare, who I have talked about this a little bit in the past and stuff that I've written for dressagetoday.com, but she was diagnosed with kissing spine back in November, and it just explained so much about her. And in hindsight, it was really painfully obvious. So, gosh, I have so many thoughts about the whole kissing spine topic and what that does.
Yeah, you've been through it all.
Yeah. But anyway, we, got back on track after the, really intense quarantine, period. And, we've just kind of been back to normal training. We finally got to go to a clinic, and that was like super exciting because, I hadn't taken her out in quite a while. So, it was nice to get back into the groove of things. I didn't end up doing any shows, this spring just because of COVID, but also because of kind of where we were in the training process of, kind of readjusting our approach to training after figuring out this kind of like huge major piece of like the way her body works. So I guess not too much to report on here other than the fact that I didn't ride for quite a while, but I think a lot of people have a really similar story and experience to me. And also, as much as I wanted to complain about like, oh, I can't ride my horse, I can't go to the barn, meh, like I really had to keep it in perspective that, there are a lot of people out there who are dealing with stuff that's much more difficult than this. So I need to shut my mouth and not complain so much.
Yeah. I mean, definitely it's been one of those things where I know I found myself, like, oh, we missed out on some vacations and things that we were going to do. But in the grand scheme of things, how incredibly fortunate my family is, and I think, that has brought a lot of perspective to things for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The way that I'm thinking about it, for me at least, is that I'm like, if the way that this affects me the most is as an inconvenience, then I am among the luckiest, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. For sure.
Hey friends, the show will be back in just a few moments, but first I want to tell you about something cool from Dressage Today. If you're an average dressage rider like me, you've only got a certain amount of time you spend in the arena each week, and it hardly ever seems to be enough. You know the struggle. Maybe you take weekly lessons, or you read books and articles. Well, you obviously listen to this podcast, and maybe you travel to clinics to soak up whatever you can. But if you're looking to take a deep dive into dressage training without ever leaving your couch, you need to check out Dressage Today on demand. Learn from top experts in the sport of dressage with Dressage Today's complete video on-demand training resource. Whether you're looking to better your basics or you're polishing Grand Prix movements, Dressage Today's 3,000 plus training videos can help you reach those goals. Visit ondemand.dressagetoday.com to score a free trial.
One of the kind of fun things that did come out of COVID for DT was our virtual horse shows, which we kind of, along with everybody else, we kind of, delve into that. But that seemed to be right in line with, our core, educational values, wanting to educate people and give people the opportunity to show in front of a judge and still do something fun while they were stuck at hopefully if they could get out to the barn. But that was something fun that we kicked off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for our listeners who maybe haven't heard about our virtual shows or haven't participated in one yet, do you want to fill them in on generally how it works?
Yeah, sure. So we've been doing them, I guess, about monthly now, for the past few months. And essentially we have, I believe it's 4 classes. We have a first training level, first level, second through 4th level, a non-compete class, and then a class where you can sign up and then get a one-on-one phone call from our judge. And the judge who we have been using is Margaret Freeman, who has been wonderful and giving our riders lots of great feedback, even if they don't do the virtual or the phone call, consult call with her. The test sheets that they get turned back to them have a lot of great comments and feedback and help that she's given them. But what essentially it is you sign up and you have, I guess we leave it open for 2 weeks, the show. So you sign up and get your spot, and then you video your ride. You pick a ride, you choose a test, and then have a friend video your ride, and then submit that ride through a YouTube link. And then Margaret judges the rides, and we have a winner for each of the 3 classes. So a winner for our training, first level, and then second through fourth level. So we have 3 winners for those 3 classes. And it's been, I mean, the response has been great. We have sold out almost all of the shows. We typically take about 40 riders per show. And I think we've sold out all but one of the shows. And we've had great sponsors. VitaFlex Pro has been a sponsor for a number of them. And the show that's currently going on, which does not close until next week, is the sponsor for the prizes is Horse Tech. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of a little bit all over the place. I don't know, Lindsay, if you want to add anything that I missed out on.
Yeah, so we're really appreciative to all the riders who joined us in this new venture and sent us their videos and kind of put themselves out there for that experience. And then we're also really thankful to our sponsors who have provided prizes for the shows, including SmartPack, VitaFlex Pro, Farnham, and Horse Tech. We really appreciate their partnership. You know, some of the things that I think are so great about the virtual shows is that, like, I mean, like, if you have a horse that doesn't trailer, but you still want to know how competitive are they, how would a judge score their movement and things like that. You know, you don't have to deal with the stress of putting them on the trailer or paying for gas or paying for stabling fees or braiding, or you don't have to dress up. Like, I think, we want to encourage people to come as they are. You know, it's a learning. The whole point is to learn. Our virtual shows aren't tied into any like larger organization. So, you can't like earn points or qualifying scores, but it is such a great learning opportunity. We welcome everybody of all levels. If you want to compete, that's awesome. That's great. If you don't want to compete and you just want to get educational feedback, do that too. There's an opportunity for those riders as well. So so I like how, in a sport that can sometimes feel exclusive or sometimes feel very extremely cost prohibitive, I feel like this is a great way for everybody to get involved, especially since I think it comes out to be like a little more than $25 a test, I think. Is that right, Jen?
Yeah. With there's like, I think, administrative fees, but it's under $30 per class.
Yeah.
And then the virtual one, or the one-on-one phone call with the judge is a little over, I guess it works out to be a little over $100, but she gives you a good solid 45 minutes on the phone where she goes through the test, movement by movement as you are both watching it together. She goes through it, and then she provides you with, exercises on things on how to improve certain parts of your test to help you, get a better score next time. So it's really, and the people that have done that one, it is definitely a little bit more expensive, but for the folks who have done it, they've had rave reviews about that. So yeah, it gives everybody, an opportunity, to do something that, is very cost effective. And then if you want something a little bit more, that's there too. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to host these.
Yeah. Oh, and I think like with Margaret's phone consultation that she's been doing, I want to highlight this because I feel like this is something really would be awesome for people to take advantage of, because I mean, it's basically our version of a fix-a-test. And I feel like it's great that you can watch the video while Margaret is talking you through it. So you can literally see what she's seeing and see how these things are being scored. And I think it's great that you get this information that's really specifically tailored to your needs. And I think that should be especially useful for, we hear from readers and followers that, people say, well, I live in South Dakota and I don't have a dressage trainer within a 6-hour drive from me. And we want to reach those people and we want to provide resources to them. And so I think doing something like this should be a great way for those people to still continue to progress their education, even if they don't have a trainer on the street.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Let's see, what else is going on in the world of dressage today? We've been launching some digital issues that are available on dressagetoday.com. They're called Dressage Today Extras, and they feature some really popular articles from our archives that are most of the information is relevant for riders of all levels. There's a training story, and then there's a health story related as well. Typically sport horse health related issues. Sometimes they're focused on nutrition or joint health or, suspensory injuries, things of that nature. So we encourage our followers to check those out. And let's see, we always have something new rolling out with Dressage Today on demand videos. Jen, you want to tell us more about what's going on there?
Yeah, we have some really exciting things coming up. I mean, obviously with COVID, it was a little bit difficult because we couldn't really travel anywhere. But technology is a wonderful thing. And we actually are working with a Pilates instructor, Helen Fletcher. She actually works with equestrians specifically, and she's in Australia. She has done stuff with Dressage Today in the past, and when we had the magazine, she had done some articles with us, but she is working on a series of videos for beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes of Pilates that we're going to roll out on Dressage Today on demand for subscribers. So that's pretty exciting. And then we're also going to be doing some work with Sydney Collier, a para rider up in Massachusetts, and her trainer, Katie Robichaud. We're going to be filming a series with them this fall, as well as another series with Felistis von Neumann-Kussel, who has been a really great supporter of our new online site. She's going to be doing some more videos with us. And then we've got some stuff lined up for this winter, hopefully down in Florida, as long as COVID doesn't wreak havoc on us again. We're hopefully going to be doing some more stuff with JJ Tate, and then Charlotte Yorst and David Find. We have an article coming out with them, and hopefully we'll be following that up with a video series. And a couple other people. So we've got some things coming up for this fall and early next year that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that's a pretty good mix. I remember, let's see, we've met Sydney and Katie down in Florida, and I also remember that Katie Robichaud, she rode in the Dorothy Schneider clinic. She was one of the demo riders. Yep. And I think I want to say she rode a big, was it a chestnut gelding?
Chestnut. Yeah.
Anyway, I thought they were a pretty stunning combination, and I loved watching them. So I was like, oh boy, yay, we get to do something with them for GT. That's great. And like Sydney is such a cool person. And I mean, she's got an amazing story. And I remember when we were visiting with them in Florida, we got to meet her horse, Ale, and he like so friendly and just a sweetheart, and also like super fancy too. So yeah, we get to work with some pretty cool people, huh?
Yes, we do. We're pretty fortunate. That's for sure.
Yeah. In the realm of podcasts, hello, we're launching season 2. This is our first episode. But let's see. I've talked to Jochen Schleza about saddle fit. That's been a topic of pretty strong interest for me lately. I mean, I feel like saddle fit is always something dressage people want to talk about. It's always relevant, especially when our training evolves so much around the horse correctly using their back and correctly moving through and over their backs. And of course, seeing as my horse has kissing spine, saddle fit is a really super intense interest to me. It also so happens that my horse tends to be impossible to fit saddle wise because she has super high withers and she has a very forward girthing area. And then when she lifts her back, when she is working, everything just slides way far forward on her. And I've oh my God, I've been through such saddle fitting hell with her. But anyway, I've just wanted to educate myself as much as I can about saddle fitting and everything. So that was sort of what sparked this conversation with Jochen. And I felt like obviously our readers could benefit from it. And we also tried to really keep it focused on I don't want our readers to feel like we're pushing a particular brand on anybody. So that was not the focus of this podcast. It was really focused around just the basics of correct saddle fitting. What are things that you should look for if you're on a budget? Hello, most of us are. What are the best ways to select an economical option for your horse, knowing that you still want to buy the very best thing for him that you can. So that was a pretty enlightening and interesting conversation. So we're looking forward to sharing that with you guys. Along lines of tack fitting, we had also had a great conversation Jen had a great conversation with Stephanie Brown Beamer. Do you want to tell our listeners about that, Jen?
Yeah. We I guess it was back in March, we went down to Florida and actually shot a video series with Stephanie on bits and bit fitting, bridle fitting, and that it will be released this fall as well. But we also had the opportunity, or I had the opportunity to sit down with Stephanie and just kind of talk to her about what she has seen and some of the trends that she has seen and what she finds works for different horses with different mouths, and what has been beneficial for horses of different breeds, that sort of thing. So that we had a really good talk with her, and we'll be releasing that soon, probably this fall as well. So yep.
Awesome. And Stephanie is such an interesting person to talk to too, because I feel like not only is she an equipment expert, she's also a very accomplished rider, so she certainly understands the performance aspect of things. And then she also works with she a huge variety of very, very talented riders. So Stephanie took us on this little tour of Wellington where we were talking to some of her clients, and it was just this list of
that was so fun,
dressage superstars, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. And that will be, all those folks will be highlighted in the video series as well. So yeah, that was a ton of fun doing that.
I'm trying to think who were some of the people. We talked to Lauren Samus. We talked to Nicole Herring,
Olivia Lagoy-Welch.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. We go ahead. I'm sorry. Hillary Clayton. We got to chat with her, which was really cool.
Oh yeah. That was so awesome. I feel like we have this that's hard to say, biomechanics expert, Hillary Clayton. I was like, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity. This is so cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was really, that was a really fun few days that we got to spend with Stephanie. Really, really enlightening and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was very cool. I'm also hoping to talk to a para dressage rider that we have up near me in New York. She's actually one of my barn mates, and she has a fascinating story, and she's aiming for the Olympics as a para dressage rider. And so I'm hoping to share a conversation that we have with our listeners. And we've also got some interviews from previous horse shows that we've gone to in the past that I'd like to share with people, because I think there's some interesting stories in there too. And for our readers who are listeners, for our listeners, if there's anybody or any person or any topics that you feel really strongly about that you would like us to address or cover, send us an email at dressagetoday@aimmedia.com, or you can get in contact with us through our social media. And we want to hear your suggestions. We want our podcast to be a real representation of our community. So we really welcome your feedback. And if you have a story that you'd like to share with us, get in touch. And maybe we can have you as a guest on our show too.
Yeah, that would be exciting. We love getting people to give us their thoughts and ideas on who they want to hear from. Absolutely.
Only if your thoughts are nice. We don't want to hear your thoughts if they're not nice.
Right. Just be kind, right?
Yeah, no, it's okay. We can take tough love too.
Yeah, we can. We're tough.
Is there anything I'm forgetting, Jen, that we should share with her?
I can't think of anything right now. I think we've covered most of it.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for hopping on the phone with me, and thank you to everybody who is listening to this. We can't wait to share all of our upcoming conversations with you. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, Lindsay. I'm sorry we can't see each other in person doing this, but this was fun, and I'm looking forward to season 2. Thanks for listening to the Dressage Today podcast. You can learn more from Dressage Today and read in-depth training articles at dressagetoday.com, or you can visit our new training video site, Dressage Today On Demand. To learn more, visit ondemand.dressagetoday.com. And for daily dressage training tips and advice, give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Happy riding! This podcast was produced by Jennifer Mellace and Lindsay Paulsen. And it's also hosted by Jennifer Mellace and Lindsay Paulsen. If you're still listening, don't forget to leave us a review and tell your friends about our podcast. If you have feedback or you'd like to be a guest on our show, shoot us an email at dressagetoday@aimmedia.com. The Dressage Today podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of Active Interest Media and the Equine Network.